Okay, here we go, week 2, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed week 1. I know there was a lot of reading, a lot of lecture material to get through, but again, it was about giving you that kind of basic vocabulary for the art world, and we're going to do a little bit more of that this week. We're talking about visual elements and mediums. Before I dive into that, I did already grade your journals for week 1 and your quizzes. You know, you should be able to see those as soon as it's past the due date. So those should be in there for you to see. So make sure that you go read any feedback. If you have questions about anything on the quizzes, always ask me if you need help there. So what we've got going on this week. So we're going to be reading just in the Looking at Art text, chapter 3, which is called Style and the Formal Elements of Art. So we're going to be talking about, describing art this week. We're going to be talking about this idea of representational versus non-representational. So it's going to have to do with some mediums, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so what I want you to do is after you do the reading, go ahead and watch this clip. Here's the link for it too. If sometimes I know that these YouTube clips that are embedded maybe don't load properly, so I always include the links for you so that you can go directly to YouTube. But this is just a short video, and it's going to talk about describing Van Gogh's Starry Night. So then I want you to view this little lecture that I did, and it's not terribly long. Let's see, it's only 5.5 minutes or so. And this is going to talk about naturalistic or realistic versus abstract, or representational versus non-representational. So I want you to make sure that you watch this. This is an important one because when we do one of our assignments this week, you're going to need to know this stuff, and we'll get to that in a second. So you have a discussion board. So last week we had a journal. This week we have a discussion board. We tend to rotate back and forth between those. And this one is about the power of color because we're talking about describing the visual world. We're talking about mediums this week and different elements. So what I want you to do is download this chart. So you can just click to the PDF. This is what it looks like. It's called Psychology of Color, and it's very basic approach to this idea of psychology of color. It's like a very small introduction. But it's going to talk about, paint colors in rooms and what kind of moods you might want to use to enhance, certain things in a room. For example, if you go into a fast food restaurant, or if you look at fast food restaurants, they're almost always in the reds, oranges, and yellows, right? Because those colors increase metabolism. They encourage your appetite. They lift your heart rate. So, the idea is you're hungry, you get in, you eat, and you leave so that there's room for more people. If you ever noticed fast food restaurants are not very comfortable to sit in, the seats are not very comfortable, that's done on purpose to get you to just get in, get out. But it just talks about, this kind of thing. It's going to talk about just the primary colors in general and what they're supposed to do for you. It's going to talk about color in advertising. So again, remember, this is just a very basic introduction to the idea of color theory. So go ahead and take a look at that. And then what I want you to do is choose any artwork that has always moved you because of the use of color. So make sure you include that artwork in your discussion board. So you want to embed the image. Describe why you find this image powerful. Does the artist's use of color parallel the information in the psychology of color chart? Maybe it doesn't, and that's okay. Don't force it to. Ask yourself if it does, and that's, to lead to more discussions about why these artists might have been using the colors that they chose. What I want you to do then is comment on at least one of your peers' posts. So you might ask, what do they find especially effective about color, or just something you found interesting to get some conversation going. So your answers for each of these questions, 2 to 4 sentences in length. Don't write me an essay, but don't write me 3 words either. You will be graded on your participation as well, so make sure that you ask questions and answer when asked. Be sure to include your chosen artwork image embedded into your discussion board entry, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So if we actually click on the discussion board itself, it's going to take us to that forum. We want to hit Create Thread. It's going to give you all the whole prompt again here. Go ahead and give it a subject. You can write your whole post, and then this button right here, this is the Insert Edit Image button. You want to hit this, and this big old menu is going to pop up. And what you can do is hit Browse My Computer. You can grab an image, you can open that up, and then it's going to show you your image here. And so what you can also do if you decide is you can go to appearance, and if you feel like the image is really large or you want it to be bigger or smaller, remember we want them to kind of fit on the page. So let's say that I wanted to change this down to 500. And then, you know, you can, there's advanced, you probably won't really need to use any of that. This you may not even need to use. But basically then you're just going to hit insert, and give you this menu, and then voila, you have an image right there in your discussion board post. So keep in mind that JPEGs work best in this to embed, so try and make all your images into JPEG files, but that's how that works. So it's pretty easy. If you need any more help with that, please don't hesitate to ask. So going back to the learning activities, remember that your mini art cyclopedia is due at the end of this week. Hopefully you all have already done the first 10 images, which was the reading from week 1. And now this is what we read this week, Style and the Formal Elements of Art. This is going to talk about line, shape, complementary colors, light and dark, texture, space and illusion, all these good things. So these are the terms that you want to be finding examples of this week. So any questions about this assignment, please let me know. If you want to send me, you know, a sample slide and say, am I on the right track? Students often do that just to kind of boost their confidence, make sure they are getting things right. There's suggested resources also. So we went over that one last week. So if you want to go over that video again, go back to the week 1 learning activities. Okay, and then you have one teeny assignment left this week. It's 5 points. And so you might think, oh, you know, if I don't get it done, I don't get it done. But let me tell you this. Besides the point value, this is really important that you do this week because it's going to set the stage for your theory application paper, which you're going to be working on over the next couple of weeks. So what I want you to do this week is select the images for this paper. So if you go to the week 4 learning activities, read through the instructions for this paper, and by the end of this week, you need to submit the 2 images you will be writing your paper about. So one image should be naturalistic or realistic. One image should be considered abstract. This is where this video is going to prove helpful to you, okay? Your images should also be of the same subject matter. So 2 portraits of ladies, 2 portraits of guys on horses, 2 landscapes, 2 battle scenes, 2 still lifes, 2 crucifixion scenes, whatever it might be. You really want to make sure that these images are of the same subject matter, because what we're going to be doing in our theory application paper is we're going to be going through Panofsky and going through Fry, who you're going to be reading next week, and you're going to be comparing how 2 artists took the same subject matter and how they communicate the same thing, and then you're going to contrast them and how they communicate different things based on the way that the artist portrayed them. One is really abstract. How does that emotionally affect us differently than the realistic one, and vice versa? So that's why it's important that they're of the same subject matter. Your images should be no older than 1830. We're contemporary visual arts and culture after all. I'm using this as a loose date for when the modern era in art began, modernism. So that's why I'm letting you go back that far even. So make sure they're not any older than 1830. What you want to do is submit your images either by embedding them directly into the assignment text editor or attaching a PDF or a Word doc file. So make sure that you have the actual images that you're submitting with full citations. That's artist name, title of artwork in italics, year the artwork was created, medium of the artwork, and the full source or the web address, okay? Your images should come from either a museum or educational website. This is really important. So this whole section right here. Below is a list of suggested image resources. So it's a lot of the same sources that I give you for the mini art cyclopedia assignment. So Met Museum, the Cultural Institute from Google, if you go to the Art Project, the Getty Museum, the Museum of Modern Art. You could go to MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art in LA. You could go to excuse me, the Art Institute in Chicago. There's a lot you could explore. You could go on Google's Art Project and explore different museums and then go to their websites to find images. So the reason I do that again is to make sure that we're finding, reputable sources that have, a good amount of art that you're going to be able to find ample information on. That's one thing that is not in this that I'm telling you in this video that's really important. Make sure that the images you choose are from artists that you can find a lot of research on. So don't pick something really obscure and then find out later when you go to write the paper, the outline in the paper, that I can't find any information on this artist. So we don't need to be really obscure for this. Pick something, you know, that is going to make your life a little bit easier for this paper. So I recommend, you know, picking a work of art, doing some research before you actually submit this. So then I will approve your images, and then next week you're going to be writing outlines for your paper. So any questions on that, let me know. Also, you have your quiz. Remember, you have all week, so do Sunday at midnight. One attempt, though. It has to be done in one sitting. So that's what we got. We got our quiz. You have your theory application paper images that you need to pick. Our theory application, your mini art encyclopedia is due this week, so the second half of the images is hopefully what you should be working on. And your quick discussion board. These discussion boards shouldn't take any longer than about 25-30 minutes, okay? So don't spend too much time on these. I don't want you to get stressed out because you're spending hours on a discussion board when I'd rather you be spending more time on these other assignments. Any questions about any of this, please let me know. Have a great week, and I'm looking forward to seeing your work.